Rayman, a true legend of the platforming genre, and yet his legacy has been forgotten. While games like Mario 64 are constantly praised for the transition into 3D, games like Rayman 2 are left in the shadows of history. Today I'm going to show you the true history of Rayman's transition into 3D, and why it's unappreciated in the modern times. Now, Rayman first appeared in 1995 with the release of Rayman 1. This was Ubisoft's first big hit, and it's probably thanks to Rayman 1's uniqueness. The game has a fantastic atmosphere with colourful and childlike graphics, which definitely don't represent how hard the game is. Now, the game was very popular and very well known for its intense difficulty. This made it stand out from the likes of Mario and Sonic, which can be seen as much easier games, especially when compared to Rayman 1. Now yes, the game's toughness may have scared away some casual players, who bought the game thinking it would be an easy platformer. But at the time, Rayman needed to stand out from the crowd, and Rayman did this extremely well, as there's no game at the time who had this level of difficulty and charm. This game also introduced us to the lovable character Rayman, who is very upbeat and charming. Rayman 1 is just leaking with personality. It's just so unique and weird. This game has enemies like the Hunter, and the Hunter shoots a bullet at you, which sounds rather normal. But what isn't normal is the fact the bullet pulls out a hammer and tries to hit you with it. Yeah, I'm not giving Rayman 1 any awards for realism. This game started Rayman's whole legacy and showed us that he wasn't just going to be another bog standard game character. No, this game was going to be one of the innovative giants of the 90s. Now, after the great success of Rayman 1, it's no surprise that they quickly got to work on a sequel. Although saying this, it took them a very long time to release Rayman 2, and this is not due to them not working on it. They started work pretty much straight away on Rayman 2. They started making a game very similar to the one previous. The game would look and feel about the same, with one major difference being the addition of a 2-layered level, which would allow enemies to attack you from afar, also allowing you to travel between foreground and background. This later would be repurposed in Rayman Legends. Another addition would be rideable creatures, which would help Rayman on his journey. All these features of Rayman 2 kinda showed us that the creators wanted to keep Rayman in the 2D realm, following a similar path to Kirby. Now, the game got pretty far into production, with even levels being made. Now, many of these original Rayman levels have been lost to time, besides one. This level can be found when playing Rayman 2 The Great Escape, as an Easter egg after the credits. If you collect at least 720 yellow lums, you can play this level. This level shows you the basics that was going to be in the original Rayman 2, with new enemies like the robots and some teleporting showers that can move you from the foreground to the background. Now, as you could tell heavily from my wording, this original game was scrapped, and basically zero aspects of the original game would be carried over into Rayman 2 The Great Escape, unless you kinda count the robots. But the robots used in Rayman 2 The Great Escape look very different to the ones used in the original Rayman 2. And of course, features like the rideable animals were changed out for stuff like the rocket shell. Now, this game was fully scrapped. But why was it scrapped? It was so far into production. Well, the creators of Rayman decided to attend the 1996 E3, which would have a showcase of the brand new game Crash Bandicoot, which was made by Naughty Dog. This showed the creators of Rayman what was possible with gaming and what direction gaming was actually going in. It wasn't staying 2D, it was going 3D. Also, don't forget this was the same year that Mario 64 was shown at E3. You couldn't get a clearer picture of which way gaming was going. So after E3, the original Rayman 2 was scrapped. And so, work began on Tonic Trouble. No, that's not the secret name of Rayman 2. The creators at this point in time had never had experience in 3D game design. So instead of releasing a terrible 3D Rayman game, they decided to get some practice by making another 3D game, Tonic Trouble, which would let them test and get to grip with the new 3D elements. You see, 3D gaming at this time was very, very new. Not many companies were equipped for it. When comparing Tonic Trouble and Rayman 2, you can definitely see the similarities, and you can see how the practice definitely paid off. Then in 1999, Rayman 2 would be released, to great success. And although it missed the boat of the original 3D games like Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot, it more than made up for it with all the new features that would separate Rayman 2 from the likes of Mario 64, as Rayman 2 would take more of a direct focus on atmosphere and story. Now, this jump for Rayman from 2D to 3D was very sketchy. This was Ubisoft's biggest character, and if this game was a flop, then everything was at stake. but thankfully the game did really well. But not only that, I personally think that the game dominated any 3D game that came before it. With its brilliant controls and fun and engaging world, Rayman 2 not only made the jump from 2D and did it very well, it also did something no other platformer had done at that time, at least not very well, and that was having a story. Now Rayman 2 is much darker than Rayman 1, in tone and atmosphere and even in story. It's a lot darker. Rayman 2 deals with topics like illness and even slavery. So if Rayman's jump to 2D is so great, then why is it unappreciated? Well, the reason for this is probably due to Rayman 2 releasing a few years later. As I said earlier, it kinda missed the boat for the original 3D games, like Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot. That means many people don't class it as an original 3D game, meaning it doesn't hold as much value. The thing is, back then Rayman 2 might have been known as an innovative piece, but now thanks to Rayman's absence in the modern time, many people have forgotten about his legacy, meaning any accomplishments he had made have been forgotten or been accredited to games like Mario 64. Maybe if Rayman was still releasing games nowadays, then maybe people will go back and check out Rayman 2 and see how much it influenced gaming. And yes, to be fair, Rayman 2 did follow the basic formula of a 3D game, but it did it really well, and it added a story. I can't emphasize enough how many platformers don't have a story or it's very basic, but Rayman 2 wasn't like that. Rayman 2 showed you who the villain was, and he was actually evil. He literally enslaved people, and it also showed you what would happen if you didn't succeed. This gives stakes, which is something Mario doesn't really have, besides Princess Peach. Now, I'm not dissing Mario 64. I love Mario 64 as well, but it kind of annoys me how unappreciated Rayman 2 is. But in my opinion, Rayman 2's levels are better than any levels at the time. As yes, they were linear, but they offered so much variety and uniqueness. Such as one part you have to ride a rocket shell with legs down a tight corridor. In what other game do you have to do that? But also its atmosphere just ties it all together. It has such a dark and twisted atmosphere, but it's still bright and colourful. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see why I believe that Rayman 2 is the greatest game ever, then this video is for you. And if you did enjoy, please consider subscribing and join the Insta Army today. And I'll see you next time. See ya!